Yeah, good morning, all of you. I hope that I am audible and my screen is visible. In any one of you, please confirm the same.
Yes,
Yeah, thank you. So I hope that you have already attended the Sunday session. I will give you the overview of containers again, and after that we will dwell into the actual discussion of Docker. Okay, so before existing of this containers technology, okay, we have what? We have the technology of hypervisor. Okay, now also people are using hypervisor. That's a different story. So let's say a developer is having some host operating system, can be Windows or Ubuntu or anything, right? So then he wants to have multiple operating system in the same host. For that, we have hypervisor. This hypervisor, this hypervisor will enable us to install multiple operating systems in the same host. And these multiple operating systems are full-fledged operating system. That means if you want to install Ubuntu 18 here, Ubuntu 20 here, Ubuntu 22 here, for each of these instances, we have to download the Ubuntu image. Ubuntu 18.04 iOS download. To do that, it will be about 3.5 plus GB. The image size will be about that much of size it will be having. It is 2.3 GB, right? Then, then if you want to install that, it is as heavy as the full-fledged operating system because we are installing the full-fledged operating system here. And if you want to install another operating system in the same host, because you have the sufficient resources available in the particular hardware and you want to make use of that, and you have the requirement for creating one more operating system with a different version. And if you want to create Windows with a different version or Mac OS, you can do all those things in the same host machine. But we are installing full-fledged operating systems here and they are very heavy, right? But coming to containers, the containers will be using underlying operating system kernel, and we don't need to install full-fledged operating system. Here it may be 3 GB of size, but coming to containers, this container can be of just 4 MB to 100 MB. We have very lightweight Linux containers like Alpine, which is having just 4 GB, 4 GB weight, 4 MB weight. Think where is 4 GB and where is 4 MB? How many times it is lighter than this? And here we have eliminated the need for installing full-fledged operating system. That is one advantage. So we have saved a lot of resources. Okay, and that resource can be utilized for this application A. And here we can push only source code. Let me copy this to our paint. Here in this case, we can only push the source code and we can save it in the repository. Okay, some central repository, let's say GitHub or Bitbucket or Azure repos. But in this case, along with the source code or the application, we are also packaging the libraries which are required for this application A, and we are shipping them through some central server called as what? registry. Okay, this is called as what? Registry. By default, it is Docker Hub. So this will be made as an image. Okay, this container will be made as image, and the same image can be shipped from this machine to the some central server, and it can be deployed anywhere. Okay, so now let's say that we are shipping this image, we are saving that in some central server, and if we want to deploy that into QA, we will be doing the same thing here. The same dependencies in the same application is packaged and shipped. This is the advantage. We have talked about this. And let me talk about some terminologies that we use in the Docker. First thing, Docker image. Docker image is nothing but this application A along with its dependencies packed together in a file, then that is called as what? Docker image. What Docker image consists of? Docker image consists of application along with its dependencies. Let's say Jenkins is an application, its dependency is Java. We have any other dependencies, all those things will be packed together, then that is called as what? Docker image. If we execute this image, or if you run this image, or if you install this image, then that is called as what? Container. That means the running instance of an image in our case Docker image is called as what? Container. That means this is what? Docker image, and we are downloading that into some Docker host machine, and we will run this, we will execute this file. Then from this container will be created. That means container is nothing but running instance of this Docker image is called as what? Container. Then where all these images will be stored, these all images will be stored in some central server called as what? Registries. And more specifically, they are called as container registries. Okay, that means container registry means the central server or server where images are stored. Okay, images are stored. So by this you should understand that in registries we will save images, not containers. Got it? We will save that images in the registries, and we will pull the image and we will execute that image. Once it is executed, then that is called as the container. So only small difference between the Docker and image and the container. Image is just a file. Once we execute that file, then that becomes container. Okay, so that is, then we are downloading that image into where? Docker host. What is Docker host? Docker host. Docker host means the machine in which Docker is installed is called as what? Docker host. That means this is our machine initially, and we are installing Docker in this. Now this can be called as what? Docker host. As simple as that. For example, if we have your own Ubuntu machine, it is generally an Ubuntu machine. But if you install Docker in that, then you can call that machine as Docker host because it is hosting the Docker. As simple as that. Okay. Then Docker client. Docker client means the Docker CLI, as simple as that. So in order to interact with this Docker, in order to send a request to this Docker to create a container, How do we do that? We should have some command line to interact with this. That command line interface is called as what? A Docker client. Okay, as simple as that. And by default, the images will be stored in some public repository or registry called as what? Docker Hub, that is hub.docker.com. Okay, we will see that going forward. So in this case, if we want to install full-fledged operating system, it will take about 30 to 40 minutes. But if you want to launch containers, within no time, within seconds, you will boot up these particular containers. And these are nothing but the virtual machines only. Okay, lightweight virtual machines we can call. And we can go inside the terminal of that container. Okay, all these things we will learn, right? So now what I will do is, in real time, where do we install Docker? We will install Docker in the Linux machine. I want to create a Linux machine in AWS account, AWS cloud. For that, I recommend all of you to create an AWS account, then log into that aws.amazon. Anywhere you can have that Linux machine. If you are comfortable with the Azure, go to portal.azure.com. Provided that you should have account in that and create a virtual machine. Okay, so that is. Then sign into the console. Sign into the console because I have already signed in, so it's not being asked again. That is fine. Then I think we are getting some disturbance. I'm getting call. It will be ended. So in this, go to services, go to EC2. Our motto is not to teach how to, our motto is not to teach EC2 in AWS. I just want to give some rough idea about creating some Ubuntu machine in this AWS. Okay, so we have gone to the services, then click on EC2. If it is not visible in the recently visited, then you can go to compute section. In that, EC2 will be there. Click on EC2. EC2 dashboard will be open. So I'm in Mumbai region. If you are aware, last week Amazon has launched Hyderabad region as well. Wait, friends. Now, so recently, just 1 week back, AWS has launched Hyderabad region as well. AP South 2, I think it's named. So if I refresh, that will be visible here. Let me refresh that here. Click on this, see AP South 2, Asia Pacific, Hyderabad region. So if you want to create that into Hyderabad, then you can switch to Hyderabad. Okay. So I want to create that in Mumbai region. So this is Mumbai region. Go to instances. Click on launch instances. Okay. This is the new UI. Okay. So here give that name. Because I want to install Docker in this, I want to name that machine as Docker host. And if you're creating this for production environment, you can give something like Docker host prod. You can give like that. You want to give that to them. Its name is up to you. You can name anything. You can name Ubuntu as well. That's not a problem. Okay. Because you will be having hundreds of machines in your EC dashboard, 100 distinct ways. So what I will do is, I will be giving something like Docker host prod. Okay, so we have to choose the AMI here. I want to choose Ubuntu, and I want to choose Ubuntu 18.04, which is free tier eligible, and you won't be billed for it. Okay, if you are using within the limits, this is free tier eligible. So if you are using other things, this is also free tier eligible, this is also free tier eligible, and Ubuntu 18.04 is the stable one, so I prefer to use 18.04. Okay, keep other things default, and I want to have t2.micro. That is sufficient for me because I won't be using this for production and all those things, right? So for practice, t2.micro is enough. If you are going for production, you can use some higher version, t2.large, anything. Okay, this is t2.micro is enough for me. Then let's create a new key pair. Okay, for those who do not know this AWS, I'm just showing these steps. Create new key pair. Here I want to name that as Docker host 8 a.m. KP. I'm giving that. So I want to download only PEM file. Create key pair. Okay, that has been downloaded. This is something like a password to our machine. So we have to save this. If you lost it, so there is a big procedure to retain that. Okay, so it will be downloaded only once. So I want to use only existing security group, and I will use the default security group. Okay, and the storage, this is sufficient for me. Keep everything default. Okay, what we have done, we have just given the name to that particular instance, and we have chosen Ubuntu operating system, that to 18.0 we have chosen, and I kept everything default. And the next I have chosen t2.micro because it is free tier eligible, because I'm not going to launch multiple containers. Okay, this is sufficient for me, and I'm creating a new key pair, and I'm using the default VPC and the subnets, and I'm using the default security group, and this storage is sufficient for me. That's it. Then launch instance. I want to launch only a single instance, so I kept one here. By default, it will be one. Then launch instance. The instance will be launched. It is initialized. Go to view all instances. Okay, it will be in pending state. It has to be up. It will take about 3 to 4 minutes. Then how to connect to this remote machine? I know that most of you may be using Putty, but I don't recommend that. We have a beautiful tool called MobaXterm. Okay, so how to download? Meanwhile, it will be running. So the status checks will be initialized. Let's wait for that. So meanwhile, how to download that MobaXterm? I will show you. Okay, so just MobaXterm is a client or the software to SSH into remote machines. Okay, so here, click on this. With this MobaXterm, zip file will be downloaded. Extract that. Once it is downloaded, it is just about 30 MB in size approximately. Let it get downloaded. Think what is slow, or this may take, maybe server issues will also be there while downloading this. So now refresh this. So status checks were passed. Click on this instance ID. Click on connect here. You click on connect there, we will be getting the public IP address and the username. Okay, so for this Ubuntu instance, the username is Ubuntu. If you are using Amazon Linux, the username will be EC2-user. Okay, so these two things along with the keypad that we have downloaded, we have to use it. I don't know why it is taking this much of time. I have the big bandwidth as well. Let's wait for that. So that got failed, no worries. So once that GIF has been downloaded, okay, so what I will do is I'm just want to hide my screen, friends. I'm just going to my file system where mobile system is there. Okay, I will share my screen now. So what happened? We have downloaded the mobile system. Zip file will be downloaded. After that, this file will be there once we extract that. Okay. So then Pranav Singh is asking some question. We are doing this because right now we have Windows machine, and to create Docker host, we need Ubuntu. So launching it virtually using this. Yes, we have Windows machine. We can have the Docker desktop also, but in real time we don't use the Windows machines, right? So we will be using Linux machines. So that's why I want to give the real-time exposure. I'm creating the Ubuntu machine. Okay, that is Pranav. So this is downloaded. Just double click on this. See, this window will be opened for us. This is mobile XTerm. You may be using Putty. Anything is fine, but this is having some advantage over the Putty. Okay, so now go to settings first. Click on configuration. And in SSH, please check this. Earlier, by default, it will be unchecked. SSH keep alive. So click on this. Why? In Putty, you will be time and again the session will be expired if you are not using the session for about 5 minutes or 10 minutes. Some timing will be there. But if you check this here, your SSH session won't be expired. Okay, just click on OK. What I have done, go to settings, configuration, and in SSH settings here, check this box and click on OK. Now, click on session here, click on SSH, remote host. Remote host is nothing but the public IP address of your machine. Paste it here, specify username. What is the username? Ubuntu is the username. Specify that here. We have to check this. Then port is 22 by default. It will be coming. If it is not there, we have to mention here 22. Okay. Click on advanced SSH settings. Then check this. Take this use private key. Then browse your private key. Okay. I just want to stop this one. So I'm browsing my private key. It will be in the downloaded section. Okay. So I have browsed that private key here. Then click on OK. See, we are into our remote machine, our Ubuntu machine, which is there in the AWS. Now, this font size may not be sufficient to you. What you will do is just press Control and scroll. Control and scroll your mouse. The font will be increased. Okay, this is sufficient, I think. Then if you come here, see we have SSH browser. That means this Ubuntu machines directories will be shown here. Okay, the file system will be shown here. This is, if you go on to back, this is Ubuntu user. These are the files and the directories that are there in the Ubuntu user. Okay, so I want to close this. For now, you can download the files which are created in this Ubuntu machine from here. If you want to download this, just right click on that, then click on download, and this file will be downloaded to your local machine, that is your Windows. So now I want to close this SSH browser, then clear the screen, then log in as the root user. Okay, so we are into the root now. If you want to install Docker, you should become root user. Then how to install Docker? Just go to our documentation. See, installing Docker. Just we log in as the root user using this. Then just execute this command. It will download the script for that and it will be saved into get docker.sh file. See, get docker.sh file is created. Now, just execute this. How to run the shell files? Sh and the file name. Okay. Otherwise, also what you can do is you can give up to here and pipe symbol, then bash. If you give that, this script which is there in the remote server will be executed in your local machine. So let's wait for the Docker to be installed. So here in this mobile system, see, it will also show the metrics of this particular server. Okay, this is from mobile system. This is CPU, this is RAM, this is network speed and all, and the current user and all those things. Okay, so let it get installed. It will take about 2 to 3 minutes, not more than that. See, even not 2 to 3 minutes. So our Docker is installed. How to check Docker is installed or not? Just use this command docker ---- version. See, Docker has been installed. Let's get started and play with some Docker commands. So what I said is, if we want to install Ubuntu operating system in your Windows machine, what you have to do? You have to install hypervisor. Let's say Hyper-V. Then after that we have to install. We have to download the Ubuntu OS ISO file. We have to download. So like that, if we want to run the container, we have to download what? Docker image. I told that. And where these Docker images will be located, we can have our private registries. In real time, we will use the private registries like ACR, ECR, GCR. I will come to know that. I will come to teach that later. So sorry friends. Now what I will do is, I have installed Docker in our some remote machine. Docker is installed here. Docker is installed in this machine. So now I can call this machine as Docker host. Agree with that? Then I want to run a container in this. Now if I come to our diagram, okay, diagram is not there. If I want to run a container in this, what I have to do? First, I have to download the container image. Okay. And from where I have to download? I have to download from the Docker Hub. For that, I don't need to configure anything. Okay. If we want to download the images from your private registries, you have to log into that particular private registry server. But when we install Docker, by default, Docker will be integrated with the Docker Hub. Okay, so what is Docker Hub? Let's go and check there. Let's go and see the images which are there. hub.docker.com is the Docker Hub URL. So you don't need to have any account at this moment to download the public images. We will try to create the private registry in the Docker itself. I will teach that later. But at this moment, in the initial stage, you don't need to have any account with the Docker. For example, if you want to download anything, you don't have, for example, we have downloaded the mobile system. Do we need to have the account with that mobile system? No need of that. That is a public file. We have downloaded that. So the Docker community itself has created some Docker images which will be available for the public. So what are those images? I said that in Docker, what we do, we will run the containers. Containers are nothing but what? Virtual machines only, lightweight virtual machines. In order to run the containers, we have to download the container image from the Docker Hub to our machine, in our Docker host machine. And we will execute this and it will become container. I will represent the containers with this image. Okay. So I went to Docker Hub. You don't need to go there also, but I'm just showing this UI. Now, earlier we are running Ubuntu here in this hypervisor. Now I want to run Ubuntu container. How to do that? For that, I have to have Ubuntu Docker image. Okay. So now in search box, just search for Ubuntu. Okay. Just hit enter. See, you will be getting different Ubuntu images. Some may be created by the Ubuntu, some may be by the private individuals, and there are different versions of the Ubuntu. And the most famous one or the most downloaded one and the official image will be listed in the first itself. So if you see, we have about 10,000 different Ubuntu Docker images, and out of them, the first one is the Docker official image, and 1 billion plus downloads were there. Okay, but if you don't want to come and search here, here itself we have a command called Docker search Ubuntu. It will list out the images, some of the images, the top images which are Ubuntu. Okay, so this is okay. This is the first one, and let's decrease the size, friends. See, so this has been given this being start. That means this is the Ubuntu is a Debian-based Linux operating system. So this the first one is our official image. Okay, so now what I will do is I will come here. So if you want to describe, we want to know about more details about this, just click on this. Okay, in the overview it will be given. Okay, what is this image, and all those things will be given in this. Okay, so if you are a developer or anybody, if you want to know more about this, you can go through this, but that is not important for us now. Now what I did, I have installed Docker in our machine, and I want to download this image from the Docker Hub. For that, I have to execute command docker pull. Docker pull is the command to download the Docker image from the Docker Hub to the Docker host machine. So Docker pull, which image I want to download? So the command itself is given here. Somebody is unmuted. Do you want to ask anything? Okay, I think he went on mute now. That's fine. So the Docker pull command itself is given here. Okay, so Docker pull, what's the image name? Image name is the Ubuntu. Okay, so image name is the Ubuntu. Just give that. See what will happen. Latest image, if we don't mention any tag, the latest Ubuntu image will be downloaded. We will come to tags later. So this is what it is saying. It is saying that pulling image from library, okay, which is there in the Docker Hub. Now it is saying status has downloaded new image for Ubuntu latest. I did not mention any tag, so if I don't mention any tag here, by default it will be pulling the latest Ubuntu image from the Docker Hub. Okay, how to check what are the different images, or what are the list of images that are already downloaded into our Docker host? So you saw that we have downloaded only one image, that is Ubuntu. Docker image ls is the command to see the list of images that are downloaded into our Docker host machine. So only one image is there, that is Docker image ls. If you see, then this will be shown here. So this is the repository and this is the tag. So repository along with the tag will be the image name. Then some ID will be allocated for that image. Okay, to uniquely identify that this image was created 3 weeks ago. Generally, it is not created 3 weeks ago, but even if that image is updated, then it will show that thing. Okay, this image has been created long back, image, but it was updated, so that's why it is showing 3 weeks ago. And the size of this image is 77.8 MB. But what is the size of the full-fledged Ubuntu operating system? If you want to install Ubuntu in our machine, it will be about 3 GB in size. But what is the image size of the Docker image size of the Ubuntu? 77. Let's say it is about 80 MB. See how lightweight. Now this image has been downloaded. I want to download another image also. I want to download NG image. While searching, you may not be correct about this image name. Okay, that will match some images and that will list out. Okay, so here it is saying that this is the Docker official image for Nginx. If you click on that, you will be understanding what is the image is all about. Where do we have to use and the ports of that particular. I will come to that later. So now, if you want to download this again, we have the simple command called docker pull NGINX. I want to download the latest version. So for that, we have to use the latest. Or if you don't mention this explicitly, it will be downloading the latest Docker image for the Nginx. And it will be downloaded as the multiple layers. We will understand the Docker layers concept later. Then I want to list out the images that are there. Docker image ls. Okay, so one is Nginx, another one is Ubuntu. These are the IDs of the Docker images, and this is the size. So this is 142 MB in size because some application is there in that, right? So that is. Now we can use Docker images also to get the list of the images, right? So how to run the container from this image? We have downloaded the image like Nginx and we want to run the container. We have downloaded the Ubuntu and we want to run the container for that. For that, what I will do is Docker run. I want to run Docker container run. Generally, it is Docker container run, but if you don't mention container also, that's fine. Docker container run. Okay. I want to run container and I have to mention the image, right? So from which image I want to run the container? Ubuntu and latest tag. But if you don't need to mention if it is the latest. Okay, so I want to run the container from this particular image. Then I want to name this container. Okay, even if you don't name, some random name will be allocated for that, but I don't want to have the random name. I want to name this particular container. For that, we have an option called name, hyphen name. I will name this as my Ubuntu. I'm just giving that. This is the image name. From this image, I want to create a container, and that container I want to call as my Ubuntu. I want to name that container as my Ubuntu. And because this is operating system container, there is no application running in that, then we have to interact with that container. Otherwise, the container will be starting and it will be exited because there is no application running in that. But you will understand the difference. Don't worry about that. What I want to do is, as soon as the container is started running, I want to interact with the terminal of that particular container. For that, we have an option called IT. IT stands for interactive mode. Okay, just hit enter. You can hit enter being anywhere in this command. See, now the prompt came to container from the host, and this is what the container ID. Now we are into the container. That means we are into that container. We are into that small virtual machine. We can do anything. Okay. So here what we did, we have created a container and you can develop the application, or you can do anything, you can install anything in that. So those things you can perform. Let's create some file. Okay, cat file1.txt, because there is no content in that, nothing will be stored. So now what I will do is echo hi all. I want to redirect to this file called my file. Okay, so now cat it, see that file has been created. That file is shown here. Now, how to exit from this terminal? Okay, I don't want to interact with the terminal. If you are using Ubuntu, you can open the terminal, right? If you are using graphical user interface for Ubuntu. So now this time I'm into the container terminal and I want to go back to the Docker host terminal. For that, we have to use exit. Then how to see the list of containers? To see the list of images, we have images command. Docker image ls command will also show the things. If I want to see the containers, if I want to list out the containers that are running in our Docker host, then we have the command docker ps command is there. Okay, but we have created the Ubuntu container and we named that my Ubuntu, but that is not listed here. What happened? Because I executed exit command in that container, so that's why the container got exited, because there is no process, there is no application running in that container. So that's why along with the terminal, the container also exited. But how to see the exited containers or the stopped containers? For that, we have option called A. It will show all the content. P stands for processes friends. So for process are nothing but the containers. It will show all the processes, all the containers. See, Ubuntu container, the container name is my Ubuntu. This was the image that we have used to create this container, and that was exited because we have exited from the terminal and the container. Okay, so that's it. How to start the container again? For that, docker start, you can give the container name or you can give the container ID. Now let's see docker ps. See, the container is up 2 seconds ago. This is the case with operating system container. Now let's run another container. So we have this nginx image. Let's run the container from this. For that, we have to use docker run command and we have to mention the image, right? And image tag also we have to mention. The image tag is latest. You can use that, or else you can ignore that, because if it is the tag is latest, then you can ignore that. By default it will be having the tag as latest. Okay, so image has to be provided at the end, and I want to run the container. I want to name the container as my nginx. Got it? Now, because this nginx is an application container, I can interact with it or I don't need to interact with it. Okay, so what I will do is, as soon as this container is started, the application, the nginx application will be running in that container. Okay, so now let's execute this command. See, the container started and the application also started to run. So the application is running. Okay, so then what I want to do is, these are the application logs. I can't execute any command. Okay, I can't execute any other command here. Okay, because this is not the terminal. Okay, so what I will do is, I can create another terminal. I can duplicate this session. Okay, so then, okay, I can't run docker commands being a non-root user. So Docker ps command I'm executing. See, earlier our Ubuntu container was running. Now the Nginx container called my Nginx is also up. It is up 59 seconds ago. The port is 80. We will come to know that later. This is now. I don't want to create another session and done. I want to execute the commands here itself. Okay. For that, what I will do is I will apply Control C. If I apply Control C, we will be exiting from the container. So if you see Docker ps, see that container was exited because we have applied Control C. We have killed that process. Now, how to see the stopped container ps-a we have to use. See that container was exited. If you want to start that again, you can use the Docker start. Then you can use the container name. Nginx at the container ID. See that got started. Right? That is. If you want to see the logs, then Docker logs and the container logs, container name you have to specify. So these are the logs. And they are previous logs. But if we want to live stream the logs, then we have a command called Docker logs. We have to use F option here. Then it will live stream the logs on the console. Okay, so now if this is live streaming, I can't execute other commands, right? So what I will do is I will apply Control C. Okay, so now the container will be next. Okay, so if I use Docker logs and if I use Control C, the logs will be exited, but not the container. Okay, these are the containers that are running. Now, how to stop the container? Okay, all these steps were written in the documentation, friends. It would be better if I follow the documentation, but in the first class, I don't need to. I'm just giving some general commands. All those commands will be written here and they will be explained here also. Okay, so we are using the Tomcat here, that thing, you will understand that. So how to stop a container? If you stop a container, the application will be stopped. Okay, so now Docker stop, the container name you have to give. If you want to stop all the containers, then you can stop. Okay, Docker stop this one. The container will be stopped. If it is stopped, we should see that in ps-a. So this ps-a command will show both running as well as stopped containers. Okay, that is ps-a, and this container is now running. I have stopped that using stop command. I want to remove that container. It is stopped because I don't have any use with that. I want to remove that. For that, we have Docker rm command and the container name. I want to remove the container which is stopped. Okay, for that we have rm. That's it. If you see that, it won't be even there in the exited container list as well, because we have removed the container altogether using Docker rm command. Now let's see what happened to the image. Docker images. See, we have removed the container, but still the image is still there. Okay, you can run as many containers you want to run from the same image, and once we remove the containers, the image will be still there because this is a file. Okay, the container, the application was removed, but not the image. What if we want to remove the images as well? In pipelines, we will be using this command frequently. Docker rmi. To remove stopped containers, we have rm command. To remove the Docker image, we have the Docker rmi command stands for remove image. Which image you want to remove? I want to remove Nginx latest. Okay, that is the image got removed. Now let's execute docker image ls command. See, that image is no longer available in our Docker host machine because we have removed it. So friends, we have removed that. Then now this Ubuntu container is running, it is up. Now let's try to remove Ubuntu image. See what will happen. This is the container, friends, and this is the image. I want to remove this image. RMI and the image name or the image ID, anything you can give. See what it is saying. Error response from daemon. Daemon means this Docker daemon, Docker engine. Conflict. Unable to remove repository reference Ubuntu because a container with this ID. So this is the container is using its reference image. So once the container is removed, is running from that particular image, we can't remove the image. To remove the image, definitely we have to stop and remove the container, then only we can remove the image. That is one point here. Okay, so Docker PS. This container is running. I want to remove the, I want to delete. Remove means delete the container. Docker RM. What it is saying? You cannot remove a running container. But earlier it worked, right? Earlier this command worked because the container was stopped earlier. That's why it worked. Now we are trying to remove the running container. If you are trying to remove this running container, we can't do that. We have to stop the container first, then only we can remove that. How to stop it? Docker stop the container name we have to. Okay, the container got stopped. How do we ensure that? Use -a, it will be in existence. Now I can happily use docker rm command because that is docker ps. There are no containers. Docker image ls. Still our image is there. I want to remove this image. Docker rmi. See that image also. That's it for today, friends. If you have any doubts in this class, you can ask me. Otherwise, we can wind up this session because many and of you and myself have to log into the office, right? So that's.
Yeah, hi sir. Siddhartha this side. Yeah, the session was pretty helpful. Yeah, I'm good, sir. Yeah. Also, I have one general query actually. With this course, do I be able to attend this Docker certified associate exam along with the preparation from my side? Are we going to cover all the topics that are present in that DCA exam?
Mostly we will cover because our intention is to have the real-time experience. So I will be mainly focusing on the Kubernetes. Docker, most of the topics, whatever we use in the real time, so we will be covering here. Now let's come to the Docker certification syllabus.
Yeah.
I haven't seen that syllabus till date. See, orchestration, image creation, all these things we will cover. Networking we will cover, storage and volumes we will cover things. Security we won't be covering much here. Okay. Almost all things we will cover here. Okay. Yes. But it is very wide course. It is at the PhD level or something because we have to complete this in 45 days. But it will take more than 45 days because I will be focusing more on the real-time experience, not on the certification. How to use this content, how to orchestrate the contents in the Kubernetes. But for Kubernetes, certified Kubernetes administrator course certification you can do with this course.
Okay.
Okay. So yes. All our thing is I want to, because Why I'm telling is that in real time, we don't use this Docker much. We will use the Docker images, but we don't run the containers. We don't run the naked containers. We will orchestrate the containers using the Kubernetes. So our whole point is to create a Docker image, custom Docker images we will be creating, which we will be using in the real time. And these Docker images we will be using in the Kubernetes. Okay. Yes. But if you want to go for DevOps or anything, you don't need to do this Docker certification. It is very wide one. If you want to do some PhD kind of thing, so that certification is good. But believe me, 100% of the times you will be able to do your Docker projects using this course that we are telling. Okay. Understood, sir. To go on teaching this Docker, you can teach this for 1 year also. Any subject is like that only, right? Yeah. Yeah, very thing vast. But I will restrict the discussion to the real time, and 100% I will guarantee that you will be doing everything that is related to the Docker in real time. So the main heart of this Docker course is Docker file. Docker file we will create. From that we will create the custom Docker image. We will create our own Docker images, and that Docker images we will be using in the Kubernetes. Okay. Yes, sir. Got it. Yeah, that's it from my side, friends. Yeah, got it.